City of Delaware Historic Preservation Commission. Call the roll, please.
Mr. Coleman, Mr. Nicely,
Here.
Ms. Riviera,
Here.
Ms. Van Gundy,
Here.
Councilman Rohr, Vice Chairman Hatton,
Here.
Chairman Cook.
Here. Could I have a motion of excusal? Is that a word?
No. It is not.
A motion to excuse committee members Rohrer and Coleman as they checked in ahead of time and said they would not be here.
Okay. I'll make that motion.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Call the roll, please.
Mr. Nicely,
Yes.
Ms. Riviera,
Yes.
Ms. Van Gundy,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Hatton,
Yes.
Chairman Cook.
Yes. Thank you. Item 2 on the agenda is approval of the motion summary of the Historic Preservation Commission meeting held on June 28th, 2017. Have you all had an opportunity to read the motion summary, and do you have any additions or corrections?
I have a correction. Well, I'd like to think I'm pretty good at multitasking. I actually can't be at two places at the same time. I was not present and absent. I was actually absent.
I just saw that. I will correct that.
Well, I've always thought you were capable of many things.
Not that yet. I'm working on it.
Do I have a motion for approval of the motion summary
As amended.
as amended? Thank you.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, call the roll, please.
Mr. Nicely,
Abstain?
Ms. Riviera,
Yes.
Ms. Van Gundy. Yes. I'm sorry? Yes. Okay. Vice Chairman Hatton,
Abstain.
Chairman Cook.
Yes. Item 3 on the agenda is regular business, application 2017-1726. It's a request by Brigado Investments for a certificate of appropriateness for the renovation of 15 North Franklin Street, which is Zone B3 in the Community Business District and located in the residential sub-district of the Downtown Historic District overlay. Diane, we have a staff report.
Yes, we do. As you had mentioned, the property is located at 15 North Franklin, which is near the intersection of West William and North Franklin. The property is zoned B3, and it is located within the residential sub-district of our historic district overlay.
I just said that.
Yes, you did. And here is an aerial of the property site. Okay, the building was constructed in 1801. This house is said to be the city of Delaware's oldest residence on its original site. And it was built by Sophia Moore as a combined school and orphanage. And in 1825, Richard Murray began to teach at the school, and in 1826, his wife, Joanne Hills Murray, began teaching with her husband at the school. And so therefore, the building became known as Mrs. Murray's School. And in the late 1820s, the future president, Rutherford B. Hayes, attended the school. And he actually lived close by and was able to simply walk across the street with his sister Fanny and attended school there. And as an aside, everyone's familiar with the story of Rutherford's birthplace being demolished and the BP gas station being constructed in its place, or a gas station at the time. And this was done approximately in the 1920s to, service the newfangled contraptions called the automobile. And the Hayes family actually had rented that home from Moses Bixby while their new home was being constructed. I'm going to flip back to the map. While their new home was being constructed at the corner of North Franklin and West William. And also at that time, there was a church located on this corner. So by 1823, their home was completed, and Mr. Hayes unfortunately had passed away before Rutherford was born. So Mr. Hayes never got to enjoy his new home that was built. And so, as I had mentioned, Rutherford and his sister just simply walked across the street to the school right here. And then later, the Andrews house is further up the corner on Central. That was originally constructed as one of the first public schools in the city. And so after Rutherford completed his time here, he just walked a little further up the road to continue his schooling there. So that was a little history lesson for today. Now, back to the property. The home is considered a contributing building in the National Register Historic Northwest District. And it is built in the Flemish Bond Federal style, and you can still see, the main elements of that style today. A rear wood-framed addition was built was added on in 1851. The sun porch that you can see in this photograph here was added in 1904. And from the 1950s through the 1980s, the home was the residence of John and Marilyn Kreider. And they are local historic preservationists and advocates. And the Kreider Historical Center and Research Library of the Delaware County Historical Society is named in their honor. And if you look real close, this is a picture of their home from November 1969. And I believe that's maybe Mr. and Mrs. Kreider right there, standing on. Okay, and then here is another photograph of the home circa 1980s. And if you'll notice, the home at that time was the brick facade was painted white. And then by 1999, the white paint on the brick facade was deteriorating, and all the window shutters had been removed. And by 2004, the brick facade was sandblasted, which had removed all of the white paint. And so from 1989 through 2007, the building was occupied by the law offices of Quentin Hayes, and in 2007, it was purchased by St. Peter's Episcopal Church of Delaware to use as their offices. And right now, the site is being considered for purchase by Brigado Investments, which is represented by Greg Aller, for use as an elder law firm. And then the appearance of the building has remained essentially the same since 2004 under the church's ownership.
Diane, I have two possible corrections for your report. I believe that this building is not in the Northwest Historic District. I believe it's in the National Register Sandusky Street Historic District. And the owner in the 50s to the 80s was George Kreider,
Oh,
not John
Okay.
Kreider.
okay. Thank you. Yeah, I'll double check on the historic district names.
This historic district preceded the Northwest Historic District by many years,
Okay, okay.
several years.
All right. I will double check that. All right. And going on, the law firm of Aller Stallings, which is partners John Aller and Tim Stallings, currently rent offices in the Delaware Commerce Park and is considering purchasing this building in downtown Delaware. And the project architect, who is Karen Beasley of Beasley Architecture and Design, is here today to present the proposal for the renovations. And Karen has been very cooperative in taking into account, previous discussions we had concerning the historical significance of the building and taking our architectural standards into consideration, as well as taking current ADA requirements for access into account. So the project can be broken down into the following components. The first phase first part would be the front elevation of the building. And essentially the look will remain the same. There'll be some minor changes to the signs on the front of the building. There are 2 historic plaques that will remain intact. And then the current signage on either side of the door will be replaced to reflect on the upcoming occupancy. The wood awning that's over the front porch will remain the same. It'll be repainted. And the steps that are currently very deteriorated, I can't remember if those are sandstone or limestone. Sandstone. Okay, and they've just weathered so much over time. And so at this point, they'll be cordoned off and directing all the clients to the rear of the building, where actually the main parking lot will be. Okay. The second phase will be modifications to the rear elevation of the building. And this will be where the major modifications will be made. First, the 1990s wood frame addition, which is right here, will be removed. And there is actually significant water damage all along this area here from the leaking roof and gutters. And it'll actually improve the appearance of the building and help preserve the structural integrity by removing the deteriorated members. Inside the entry, the little foyer, Of course, since that's an addition that butts up against the original bricks, those have been painted. And so that small section inside that vestibule, that section of the painted brick will be cleaned up and the paint removed. And taking into account, the appropriate methods, to remove paint from the historic brick. After that addition is removed, a new wood awning will be constructed over the entry door, which will match the existing awning on the south entry. And new, essentially they're storm doors, which will be full light doors. And these would be, the new door would match the south entry door and the front entry door. And like I said, essentially they're going to be wood storm doors. After the removal of that addition, the brick will be repaired and there will be one vent opening that will be filled in with brick to match the surrounding brick. And then on the second floor level, where there is an entry door for that second floor porch, that entry door will be removed and a new window will be installed in its place. And that would be a wood replacement window, which will be the 6/6 double hung to match the other windows on that elevation. And then also a new concrete sidewalk will be constructed from that entry, which will lead up to the new concrete ADA ramp that will be installed at that south entry door. And there will be a light fixture that will be installed at that north entryway, and then new ADA door handles as well. And those are illustrated in the packet. Okay, and then to get a closer view of the ADA entrance ramp, you can see that it will be with the removal of that addition. The sidewalk and the concrete ramp, will be unobtrusive. It'll essentially be right in that footprint of the parking area. And then the last phase of the work, will be the site work. And the existing parking area will simply be repaved and the appropriate markings be applied to the parking lot. The existing garage and the existing brick well house will remain intact and as is. There is an 1820s brick wall, which actually starts at that brick well house that designates the north and west lot line of the building. And then on the south, there is a 1904 iron fence that designates the south lot line, and that will be left intact as well. And so, city staff appreciates, the applicant and the architect having the forethought to approach us with their proposed design. And we had met and talked on a number of occasions. And, at first, the original proposal had called for removing the deteriorating steps on the front elevation. But the owner was willing, to take, the historic standards and the historical nature of that building into account and decided to leave those intact. And as far as trying to make the building, comply with the current ADA standards, all of the work will be done at the rear of the building. It'll be away from public view. And even though the building is zoned residential and still has that residential appearance, combined with being in a business district, the occupancy of that building by a law firm, would be an appropriate use of that building. And city staff is supportive of this project. So, like I said, Karen Beasley, the architect, is present, and she may come up to the front.
Would you like the applicant's representative, come up and introduce yourself for the audio record?
All right. My name is Karen Beasley. I'm an architect with Beasley Architecture and Design. I've been working with Ayler Stallings on a number of projects. They have many different offices in different cities. Ayler is from Delaware, and he really wants to invest in the community that he lives in.
Well, thank you for coming. Thank you for being here. Do the commission members have any questions for city staff? I'd just like to, I guess, address the commission and staff and you. And this is the oldest still standing in its original location house in the city. And the president went to school there, the 19th president of the United States, and it is significant. And the significance of George and Marilyn Kreider is that they were both founding and driving forces of the local Delaware County Historical Society. So thank you for respecting that and getting getting the applicant to understand the significance of this building. Any comments? Is there anything you'd like to address us?
The things that I haven't included that I'm still working with the owners that are things that as soon as they get pricing back, I'd like for additional things to happen are to preserve the stairs, but right now there are many gaps in them that water is continuing to damage them. So I'd like to tug point them in the best manner just to preserve them. So that's one thing that I'm working on, but I can't promise it's going to happen. But if money is there, it will happen. We've also looked at the chimney tuck pointing. There are a few areas that need to be addressed that is on his list, but it's coming when the money's available. But other than that, those are the big items.
Well, those, as best I can tell, those are the original stairs to the building. And they, as you no doubt have discovered, they are in very weathered condition, but they're still standing, they're still there.
The mailman goes up them every day too. I'm shocked.
I think this is a very respectful submission to this significant building, and if anybody's got any comments or questions.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman, thank you. I just have one question, just a clarification from those of you that are completely up to speed on places that are in this transitional zone. In regards to the doors, both on the front and the back, being that they are almost completely glass, full light doors, are they in compliance with the current standards because they're not in the core central business district? Or I'm just wondering if we have any numbers on what percentage of that door is glass and so forth.
These are considered full light doors, and our architectural standards, do require that there be a minimum of 50%, but not to exceed 75% coverage. But these are considered storm doors.
Okay.
So there is another entry door behind them.
Okay.
And so this is that secondary storm door with a full light glass. And the intent was to match those doors that were existing. And so the addition of the new entryway, is simply matching the other storm doors.
Okay, yeah, that clarifies, thank you.
And the front door will remain as it exists. I do believe that's the interior door is the original door.
Okay,
It's a really nice door.
it is.
It's, it probably was not realistic to think that clients would park in the back, walk all the way around the building, climb up the stairs and walk in the front door anyway. So it's just more or less a nod to the history of the building and its originality. So thank you for talking them into that.
Yes.
Yeah, I think, first of all, thank you for the submission. It always makes it much easier when we have this much detail, so thank you very much. And I think to staff's point, given the transitional and residential feel of that block, even though you have Andrew's house and the church, and it's far more commercial than residential, really, when you think about it, but it still has a residential feel to it. And I think this is a great use. I would not want to see something that would be walk-up commercial. So I think this is a fantastic use and a very sympathetic renovation, and I really look forward to seeing it completed.
Oh, good. There is one other thing I just thought of when I saw the 2004 photo. The driveway up is beveled because there are two different levels with the neighboring driveway, and there's kind of a weed tree growing on the neighbor's property that's kind of invading. So Greg Ayler is going to talk to the neighbor and see if we can combine driveways so it's one easier slope and get rid of the weed trees. So I didn't know if that was something that we should submit or do we need to discuss, or is that an issue?
If it's a significant issue, we could probably make it, if it requires additional discussion or whatever, we could probably make that subject to administrative approval, which just
Okay.
does not involve a meeting and all that.
I don't believe he's been in contact with the neighbor yet. I know he's trying. Yeah, you can see that tree. The roots are kind of taking up the asphalt.
I had no idea that the brick wall on the north property line dated to the original construction. That's remarkable. I think your proposal is very sensitively done, and I applaud you keeping and maybe making use of the old well house. And I'm delighted that this property is going to be renovated and reused in an appropriate fashion and actually restored somewhat.
Yes. And I believe, one of the reasons Mr. Ayler was drawn to the building is because of its history. And I think his clients will appreciate that. So he's talking about kind of documenting the history of the building within his offices as well.
Well, risking maybe having one of the shortest meetings we've ever had, I'm looking for a motion to approve this project.
I would move that we approve 2017-1726 as submitted.
With city
Staff recommendations, right?
staff
Yeah,
recommendations.
staff recommended. That's what I meant when I said as submitted. As submitted with staff recommendations.
Okay, I'll second.
We have a motion by Mr. Hatton, second by Ms. Riviera. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, call the roll, please.
Mr. Nicely?
Yes.
Ms. Riviera,
Yes.
Ms. Van Gundy. Yes. Vice Chairman Hatton.
Yes.
Chairman Coe.
Yes. Thank you
Thank you
so
all
much
very much.
for your work here, and thank you for coming in to explain it. And I'm delighted to see this happen. And do you have any idea what the schedule of rehab is?
We're just getting bids in right now, so we'll have to, as soon as we award the contract, then we'll have to figure out what fits in their schedule after we get the building permits and so.
Well, it's
I-
already served as an attorney's office in the past, so.
Right, and yes, and we had.
The
we were
ghosts are there.
Lucky enough to have the building department there at one of our walkthroughs too, and he was very helpful, so I don't think we're gonna have many issues, so.
Thank you.
And,
Yes, and thank you for preserving history, and Diane's been a real help, so I applaud everything you've done, thank you.
I think this commission is very well served by our city staff.
Yes. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Okay,
much.
thank you.
Item 4 on the agenda, commission member comments and discussion. Diane, what's going on downtown?
Oh. Thank you. On the sidewalk permits, we do have folks that appear to be more compliant. I've been walking and moving chairs and tables and to make sure we have our recommended walkway. I have an inflatable, I don't know if you want to, an inflatable figure that has been appearing in front of one of our new businesses, and I think it's just it's a communication problem. So we're going to be getting that taken care of this week.
We could communicate with a little X-Acto knife.
No. But they were asked to remove it, but it's been reappearing. So we'll be giving them a little reminder. 6 and 8 North Sandusky, they are wrapping up. That is the Bear Bowl building and the Toujours building. And they came out very nice. The building owners are very happy. And we just need to finalize the paperwork and get those folks back up and running.
I think there are a lot of things happening downtown that are the fruit of our efforts to have a historic district and publish standards and an accessible commission and a generally accommodating process.
Yep.
I can tell you that the interest in real estate in the downtown area is quite lively as a result.
I think even on a weeknight, if you go down on a weeknight, the amount and volume of people that are on the streets around the 6 to 7:30 hour is incredible, even from what it was 5 years ago. If you're coming in, especially from the north, it sort of looks down, and you think there's a fair going on. There's not many people, and it's really nice to see.
Well, I think even on the south side of Sandusky,
Finally.
yeah,
Good.
there's a good variety of different stores. You know, the new pet store and Olivina, it's really drawing a different crowd. And I think it's really good. There's just a lot of
And
traffic there.
property on that block is active and changing hands, and plans are being made, and that block is within the next year or so, I think will be drawn more into the downtown than it has been recently.
Yeah, the Flying Pig Ale House at 12 South Sandusky, they're making tremendous progress on their improvements. The interior is beautiful. And as you know, they're working on the facade.
I'm really curious to know what they're going to do with that gas meter assemblage there. It could be some kind
piece
of
of sculpture.
cartoon
Yeah.
caricature.
Yeah. And the property at 50 South Sandusky, the old, the Greyhound station on Spring and South Sandusky, we've been talking with the building owner, and you'll be seeing some nice improvements to that site too.
I thought they were going to ask for historic designation for the dumpster.
That finally got removed. So you'll be seeing some more activity on that.
Are there any other comments or discussion? Well, at risk of maybe making this our shortest meeting, our next regular meeting is, if it takes place, will be August 23rd, 2017. And I'd like to have a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second?
Have a motion and a second. I think Robert's rules mean that we are adjourned. Thank you all.